Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining me for this week's edition of the SMIE Consulting Midweek Roundup. It's Wednesday, April 29th, 2026, and today we're going to be answering 3 questions we've been hearing from international educators over the last 7 days. As we do each week, except this week, we take our questions that we answer here on Wednesday from our newsletter that comes out on Mondays. Unfortunately, I was not able to get the weekly newsletter out this week. Had a death in the family over the weekend and had to spend time with family. So hopefully you can understand and accept my apologies for not producing a newsletter this past week. But we are covering some of the key topics we saw in that newsletter that we would have put out this week that coalesce around certain key elements of why we come to these questions on Wednesdays. We give you our hot takes in the Monday newsletter normally, and then that is available in a couple different formats, either via LinkedIn, and then also we have an email version of that. I'm going to drop the link to the website in the chat, which is smieconsulting.org/subscribe. And on that site, you can subscribe either to the email version by filling in your details or go to the LinkedIn page for the newsletter and subscribe that way so you get a notification every Monday morning when it pops into your inbox. So that is newsletter. Between the two editions, the online, the email and the LinkedIn version, we now have over 3,000 subscribers. These are higher education professionals in international ed that are digesting that newsletter every week. So humbled that so many of my colleagues in the field are now using that newsletter as part of their international edification each week. And we cover 4 main topic areas. We have a social media and section that covers all things online, webinars, digital reports, AI tools and articles, and how social media is being used in international education. So we give you that kind of digital world in that first section. We do a U.S. Central where we talk about some of the key issues going on in the United States, either through new pieces of legislation or new executive orders or other things, trend reports that are released that have impactful information for U.S. international educators. Then we have a Solution Central section, which is made up of some ways that international educators are implementing ideas on campus or taking a concept and running with it, thoughtful blogs on how we can be changing what we're doing, much like we do here on Wednesdays. And then a final section on Global Roundup. And this takes a look at how international ed topics are playing out in other destination markets for international students, or countries that are major source markets that are also trying to become destination markets. So we cover all 4 of those areas each week in the newsletter, and then we cover 3 other themes we see developing in the newsletter each week here on Wednesday afternoon to go next level with insights and potential ways that you can be leveraging some of the content ideas that we're talking about into your international ed strategies. So let's get right to the first question of the day, and that is, what is AI's role in international education? And every day there seems to be a new article popping up related to AI in international education, in higher education in general. And I'm going to include a couple links from a colleague, Girish Bilola, who has had a Next Up AI column every week in international education. His last week's edition is AI in international ed, speed over clarity, emphasizing how some of the challenges in international education, not necessarily just adopting international AI tools in their modus operandi. It's also how they're doing that, how coordinated they are on their individual campuses and within their recruitment office versus student services office versus campus-wide, how those all align. So he makes a couple of three points in that in terms of shifts that are happening inside the classroom, that AI is being embedded directly into assessment design, allowing students to use tools like generative AI in assignments to moving away from again, we've done at Akron, away from prohibition to integration, trying to find the ways that we can be using it as a teaching tool to help equip students with skills on how to use these potential generative AI tools in their work to enhance what they're doing, not to replace work that they should be doing themselves. That's number one. Second development, he says, is unfolding in recruitment, and that is AI-powered platforms are becoming more sophisticated, offering predictive analytics, automated engagement, hyper-personalized communication, and that's great. The gains are clear: faster response times, higher engagement rates, and improved operational efficiencies, according to Girish's article. So the conversion data is really where we're not quite there yet in terms of full implementation. It's still early, but it can't. He makes a very salient point here. AI can simulate personalization, but it cannot manufacture trust, which is personal. So that's the missing element that will never be replaced by AI, and most of us would agree that trust is a personal thing, not a machine-driven thing. And the third shift, he says, is happening at the national level, where governments are aligning AI strategy with international education policies. In Singapore, they're doing it. UAE, they're doing it for visas and research, talent retention, all of that. So smaller countries probably have an easier job to integrate that across policies, and where there's already alignment in economic priorities and international ed, it's easy enough to introduce how AI strategy can be implemented across all industries and all in the country. So certainly see some of that happening. So that's Girish's article. The next article is actually more of, he was kind of taking a 30,000 foot view, and the next one is really all about how are we doing with regard to visibility and search. Because that's really where I think a lot of us are realizing, particularly on the marketing side, we see challenges almost weekly to how we're adopting AI challenges, the impact of how AI is now being used in college search. A year ago, it was, TikTok's being used as a primary tool in search. Searching information about our institutions on TikTok. Now it's next level. Now it's their students are using ChatGPT, they're using Gemini, they're using Claude, they're using Copilot, whatever it might be, to help them in their college search. So are we adopting quickly enough to make sure that what is being sought out by students is using AI tools is our current SEO strategy relevant enough to make sure that we're populating the right platforms with our content to make sure our messages are out there and accessible. And now we're seeing, I think a year ago we were seeing 10-15% of students using AI in search, generative AI in search. A new EAB report that is linked in the second link I'm sharing shows that nearly half, 46%, are now using AI tools such as ChatGPT and Claude during their college search. I think that's more of a domestic one, but you can see how easily these numbers can be reflected overseas as well. So the folks at EAB are doing a webinar next Thursday, the 7th of May, that you may want to get on your calendar, and the link to that will be in the chat. So hopefully you can find that and make that a part of what you take in the next week. But the second question of the day is one that I think we often can lose sight of, and we don't often make as the bedrock part of our overall strategies, if we're connected at all across recruitment to enrollment to student success, to successful graduation into alumni status. All of those are need to be aligned ideally in most campuses. I think there's agreement that that's the best case scenario. Whether we're able to do that successfully beyond just the international office taking responsibility for every international student, which is not an ideal because they don't have the intricate specializations in each of the other areas, in student employment, in housing, in terms of student organizations, in terms of career services, in terms of alumni status. They have pieces of that puzzle, but they cannot articulate necessarily well everything. So it's important that all campus units be aligned on this particular issue. So in terms of what is the most important thing in an international student enrollment management strategy. This is it. This is where the rubber hits the road. And for me, we're talking about particularly that first year, where you finally have these students on campus that you've been recruiting for the last year or longer, and now you are dealing with the issues of making sure that they're successful, that they are well equipped, they are oriented properly, and they have all the necessary know-how to approach their first year on your campus and be successful academically, socially, culturally, all of the different ways that we want our students to integrate into campus life. So, and that one thing is belonging. And how much do we focus on that as kind of the core message, the heartbeat, if you will, of a successful international student enrollment management strategy? Because enrollment management has never only been, or should have only been, about getting them in, making sure they're retained and have a good first year experience. This is about enrollment management internationally, needs to be full life cycle from initial prospect to successful alumni. Institutions have to have programs and policies in place that acknowledge the unique needs of these international students and have all ships moving in the same direction in terms of providing a consistent messaging that we're here to help. Here's what we are able to do, here's what we can't do, but making sure that they're well prepared and equipped for that next stage in their student journey. So that first article, again, is focusing on the importance of belonging, on that first year experience for international students. The article is a PI News article, talks about some of the ways that international education and first year students maybe where we can be doing a better job teaching them how to do laundry if they've never done that, managing deadlines, finding their people to discuss their culture and have those opportunities to share, which we all want for our students in terms of the more engaged they are on campus, the more they feel empowered to share their culture, share their story. That's what we all want from our students, for our students. So what matters most is really providing that sense of belonging, and you do that by getting them engaged, by getting them to feel wanted, to feel like they have a place, that they can really be a success on your campus. When you do all of those things, then you're setting yourself up for success again in terms of putting them on the right track towards successful graduation. Now, the other part of that international student success is making sure they're successful in enrolling, and what we need to do to make sure that we have the right pieces in place to fill our class every year of new first year and new graduate students and transfer students as well. A UCapture article talks about why traditional international mission strategies fall short, and where it's the typical college fair, agent network, country-specific email campaigns. Really, those are, I hate to say it, almost archaic now in terms of the traditional way of that approach to student recruitment for students overseas. And this assumes that we can reach students at the right moment through broad outreach, and really discounts the need for personalization and the localization of your messaging beyond just country-specific emails. So international students today, they're more self-directed because the tools are available, like we talked about earlier with the AI recruitment pieces, AI searches that students are able to do now that really resonate, and that they're looking to ranking platforms, search engines, AI, YouTube, peer communities, social channels specific to their home country. And by the time that they submit an inquiry to your institution, they've probably already digested enough content about your institution to say, yeah, I definitely need to apply here. So the selling them more on your institution isn't at the top of your list. It's making sure that questions they do have are getting answered. And being maybe a first conversation with a student is coming with them better equipped and better informed about your institution than you might have had 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years ago. So we have a lot of opportunities, and this Capture article takes a look at some institutions. Roger Williams has highlighted that they use a popover to engage their anonymous international web visitors as a way to kind of engage them earlier in the process and maybe have an actual conversation. You see the article also talks to the need to build visibility into the international student enrollment funnel. And what does that mean? The top of the funnel, they say in the article, is early impressions are formed, and it's almost the dark funnel. It's what we used to call stealth applicants, is that those students that come to you and inquire, find out about you beyond anything before you even know they're interested. So you don't have a record of it. That's what they call the dark funnel. And then the invisible stage, where enrollment decisions take root. The international students who are comparing different maybe engineering programs, for example, or looking at your research center pages. How many of us actually highlight our research centers to students that might be going into research intensive directions? That's something I developed at UNLV. I'm in the process of developing that here at the University of Akron to provide that not only for potential partners, but also students. They want to know what they can potentially be doing research in. And we've highlighted that with some of our social posts recently about students, undergraduate students that are already doing research through these centers on their own, independently with faculty, to help elevate their skill set and their knowledge base of problems in the world that they want to solve. So it's really exciting to see that happening, where it can be built in as something that students can and should be looking forward to. And the idea of personalizing is important, and it's one of our 6 Ps we talk about in our 6 Ps of Strategic International Enrollment Management. And the idea that personalization should be happening not only just after they applied and been admitted, but when they're first inquiring, when you do have that first point of contact with them, whether it's through a chatbot or some other AI agent that can be having a conversation. You can starting a WhatsApp campaign or messaging campaign with a student on your current student on your staff, or with a staff member who might be designated to handle these kinds of questions. And the final point a couple of the final points, prioritizing action across global markets. And that's making us responsive to obviously changes in the wider world, with wars and economic collapses and all the other challenges that impact our ability to travel, students' ability to apply for visas, adapting to travel ban countries. A lot of those students have an opportunity. What does that look like? Do you ignore travel ban countries entirely, or do you devise a strategy that gives them opportunities to take some courses online for the first year in their intended degree program? Do you give them that kind of even opportunity? Do you advertise that anywhere? So, and also just taking a piece of the puzzle that is showing dynamic aspects to your plan, ability to pivot, and all of these things are important to pieces of that puzzle that we all need to be including in terms of how we approach what we do and the different segments of our market that we may or may not be hitting appropriately. So let's take a look at our third question of the day. And with our 3 questions, we usually like to have one of the 3 be on a topic that's more specific for part of that global roundup I mentioned as part of the newsletter. We like to go a little bit more in depth into one of the key source destination markets to find out, hey, what are some of the major challenges they're dealing with right now. This week we're looking at Australia, and the question is Australia also losing its grip on Chinese and Indian students? We certainly in the U.S. Can say very clearly that we've had challenges getting our message across as effectively as we used to when it comes to Indian students for sure. With all the changes that our current government has made in terms of work policies and the visa challenges that they're having in the last couple of years, there's a lot of hesitancy in India right now, looking at the United States. But that's also happening in Australia. We're seeing huge spikes in the rejection rates for visas. Only only 6 in 10 Indian visas were approved in 2026 so far, meaning 40% of Indian visas to Australia have been rejected. So the rates of visa rejection for Indian students looking at Australia have increased. So that there's some real challenges there. So they're still applying, but not applying for visas for various reasons from India. We also see China. Chinese students are potentially being turned off Australia. We've seen obviously the drop in the U.S. since even before COVID. The numbers from China at the undergrad level were declining. We've stayed stable from China overall, and certainly at the grad level, we've seen even some modest increases. But for Australia, they're seeing, when I say we, I mean University of Akron, China as a whole to the United States, the numbers have kind of dropped off a bit still. Even grad numbers have dropped off. Undergrad have dropped off considerably since the pandemic. And we're seeing external influences. Obviously, Chinese students have, post-pandemic, they tended to stay closer to home. They were looking at Hong Kong, they were looking at Korea, they were looking at other countries in Southeast Asia, Singapore, Malaysia, that culturally would be better, more closely aligned with their culture, and also more reasonably priced than a U.S. or UK, Australia, Canada degree. So you're seeing now that same experience we've been having in the United States related to China, related to India, also impacting Chinese applicants looking at Australia. And we'll see, I'm sure, in Canada and in UK, there's also similar issues there. Certainly for Indians to Australia, those numbers have dropped off considerably with the rise in visa rejection rate. For Chinese students looking at Australia, similarly to what we're seeing, the YouTube clip that I'll be sharing the link to, they have had, they're seeing obviously similar things, decrease in interest from China, because Chinese students are applying to more countries now than just the big four. They're looking to become a destination as well, so some of them are staying home and doing T&E opportunities in China for Western degrees, where they're learning in English, they're taking their courses in English, and they'll graduate with either a dual degree or a completely online degree or in-person degree delivered in China by a U.S. partner through a U.S. university working through an individual Chinese institution. So all of that's on the table for China. They have many more options for students in China that are looking to pursue their higher education outside of the country, and doing that potentially through T&E inside the country. Australia has also indicated that if the government at least has indicated that if students are applying for Australian degree option onshore, which means in Australia, but they have an opportunity to take that in their home country through Australian T&E locations, they will not grant the visa for the student to go to Australia. They have to do that option, if that's what they want to do, in their home country. So a lot of roadblocks that the Big Four have been throwing up for international students. We've certainly done that in the U.S. We're seeing visa denial rates for the fall still through the roof, and from particularly South Asia countries and Central Asian countries. What we're seeing but anecdotal evidence is we're seeing students that go back a second and third time after initial visa refusal are getting it on the third attempt, and we're making students go through these extra 2 or 3 interviews in order to achieve their dream. Are we making it too complicated, and then forcing students to look elsewhere because, frankly, other countries make it a lot easier to get there? Are we setting the bar so high that you actually automatically going to be denied outright every time you go for a visa appointment. So you got to go back a second and a third time before you have a chance, a realistic chance of getting approved. Why is that happening? We can't say it's an automatic thing, because there are certain countries where the students are getting visas on the first attempt, but there's a few countries where they're all getting denied automatically on the first attempt, and only those that go back a second or third time are actually getting approved. And is that an unofficial rule? I don't think they know. There's a State Department official out there that would ever say that. But is that the reality? That's a great question that we can't give a definitive answer to, but we certainly wish we would have one. Well, that's all we have for you this week on the Roundup. I want to appreciate everyone who's bared with me over the last few days, and thanks to those of you who have reached out. I really appreciate that. That means a lot. International education is such a tight-knit community that when one of us is hurting, we all hurt, and I think that's true today as well. When we share our sob stories. I know we've got NAFSA coming up at the end of next month, and there'll be a lot of commiserations then, a lot of gnashing of teeth, but hopefully a lot of positive energy around future directions of how we can be improving what we're doing to not only recruit a more diverse array of students, but recruit and educate students in a more diverse range of opportunities through T&E and other partnership opportunities abroad. So that's all we have for you this week. I do look forward to chatting with you again next week, next Wednesday, April 6th, or May 6th. We'll be coming to you live from the home office. Thanks very much, and we'll talk to you soon. Cheers.